but it's gonna be recorded, so we can always go back to it and review the material. Okay.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah. So let's get started. We've last class, I think we talked a lot about um, the difference between positive and negative emotions, right? And
Yeah.
the purpose for that is again because we're trying to um, work within the definition of emotional intelligence. If you remember, there was four things that we needed to know in order to carry out emotional intelligence, which was recognize it, understand it, manage it, and influence. Right? How to manage, how to recognize emotions, how to understand emotions, how to manage emotions, and how to influence. Um, and again, it was supposed to be a short two lecture course, but then I was informed it was actually a 10 hours. So we just I went ahead and I expanded on the recognition part of it, and that was part of it. Positive and negative emotion, right? That's part of the recognizing and part of the understanding of it. Which so we are that is the main goal for this whole course is those four things: how to recognize, how to understand, how to manage, and how to influence. So right now, um, okay, I gave you in a list of 10 scenarios. I don't know if you were able to go through them. Um,
Yes.
I asked you to choose five of them and kind of figure out a way to resolve it or think about what advice you would give. And it's the purpose of that is just to put you in the mindset and to separate you from and kind of look at it as a third party, as you're observing from the outside, where scenarios where you're not invested emotionally, where you're not clouded, so that you're able to see these principles and they're like not really important or big scenarios, but the more you practice in the small ones, you'll be able to implement those things when you are dealing with those more tragic, when you're talking about dealing with the past, with the death of a loved one or a tragedy, the loss of a child. Those will require a lot more, but these small little scenarios will help you build up to that, right? Because if you can manage these, then you can manage the other. So we just want to go over two of them that you chose. Asked you to do five of them.
Yeah.
If you could just choose two that you are comfortable with, that you thought about, and then just go ahead and we can talk through it. Um, I had
Okay.
you. Are you able to open the list?
Can you hear? Yes, I just opened it now.
Okay, so there was 1 through 10. Which one would you like?
Yes. Um, Sorry, can you allow me to just begin anyhow?
Yes.
Okay. What I mean by starting anyhow is honestly, sir, I don't know. I'm just overwhelmed that I have to start with appreciation because when I first received the assignment, I couldn't just understand what to do. But later I read the last paragraph where you made mention of the reflection of what we're about to do and what we've done before. So I now took a moment, went through, tried to remember all the lectures that we've been having, and then I just remembered one of the key things that I wrote. about reframing. When you have an issue, reframe the
Hmm.
issue is part of the solution. Because for me, initially I was just seeing it, just answer it direct now. For instance, they said they must build the one I started with is the number 10. I just try to figure out a scenario because we fit into a scenario in my own small organization. Yes, I have a team member that is like that, and I just try to answer it the way I've been solving the problem.
Okay.
So, and I have been answering the problem that same way that I've been answering it, but it has not been solving the issue. So I now thought of the lectures I've had before. That's what you've taught me, and then I just try to put some certain things together, and this is the answer I thought I would give him. And in fact, that I want to share with you
Okay.
is that yeah, here is the response. Your leadership qualities have brought so much direction and inspiring to our organization, and we like to look, and people look up to you, your team members look up to you. But delegating more should not only help your team member grow, but will ease or take away some of the pressures that you may have. Would you like us to discuss more on that?
Okay. Yeah. And when it comes to that's a good detached view, and it's not wrong. It's actually pretty on the money. It's the only thing that I would add to it would be like you're framing it when somebody, and this is something that we will learn, like once you deal with more people, when somebody doesn't delegate, a lot of the time that's because they are used to doing everything on their own, and a lot of times that is a hard thing for them to do, is to let go of things. So they'll tell you to do something, but then they'll end up doing it because they don't trust that you won't do it like they can, right? So a lot of times, a lot of people who overwork themselves and don't delegate and don't actually manage a lot of that stuff together is because they don't have either trust in others, or they feel like they can do a better job themselves, right? Um, so they overwork, they overburden. So one of the ways that you can manage that is to let them know, look, um, as a leader, you have you have taught people, you're leading people. Use what you have taught them. Let them learn. Let them grow. Appeal to that sense of trust, because what the issue is that they don't want to let go of certain things. But if you frame it in a way where they're like, look, you do a wonderful job. It's amazing. You can, everything that you touch, you manage and you do it, and it's perfect. But you are not allowing your team to grow. You're not allowing your team to take to have the same effort that you do, and you're gonna be great, but they are gonna lag behind. Like if you frame it in that sense, and then they'll be more willing. Okay, because now you put like a you basically telling them they're being a bad leader without telling them they're being a bad leader. So you put it in a way where they're like, oh, okay, well, if I really want to be efficient, then I need to do these things. So like, and it's a matter of, oh, you want to handle bigger projects? Well, give those little projects to somebody else, because you can't handle big and small projects. So teach somebody to take those smaller projects from you. That way you can expand and grow towards your bigger projects. Frame it in those kind of manners with those kind of people is very, very, very helpful, because those kind of people are used to managing everything, having everything under their control, and even if they do tell somebody to do something, eventually they'll end up doing it themselves. You know, so it's very good. Um, and that's the whole purpose of this, is to learn to deal with people with different personalities and understand that everybody has their own motivations, right? And somebody who is like this is going to need a specific motivation, and you have to frame it in a way where it's basically you're not fulfilling your full potential, because that's what's going to push them, because that's what they want. So how do you fulfill your full potential? Simple. You let the other people handle the small stuff so you can handle the big stuff, and then you can grow and prosper. So that's a great one. So you have any questions on that, or any
I just want you to also help me share. There's this a friend of mine who I just met recently. She wants me to help with some uh, business plan feasibility studies of her business. But then she doesn't. She keeps, in fact, minute by minute, she sends information in bits.
Okay.
Even if the project have a timeline, in fact, sir, 30 minutes to the time, she will still be sending you some fresh information. So I actually do not know, and she was like she have someone that have done it before, and then this fellow is the one that is helping her with this thing, that I should just copy and put this one here, copy and put this one over there. I was like, sir, no, it doesn't work that way, because I cannot just copy information and put it on a document. The information, each paragraph has to agree with the one before or the one after. So you have to go through the message first to see where it fits in or not. But then she will just be knowing he has been there, put there, and at the end of the day, so the person that connects me with her, at the end of the day, just say I should do what she wants. I wasn't happy considering the time. I wasn't happy because I know that if I follow that route, at the end of the day, the whole document will be a mess.
Right.
So he told me to go ahead and do it that way. I did it that way. In fact, we have to stay till almost 12 a.m. before we send the document. So I don't know how do I manage people like that.
It's okay. And this is one of those things where this is why authority and structure is very important, and leadership is very important. And this is goes the there's a and this is one of those things that I've taught, and I've taught about a lot, which is authority structure, right? Because the Bible is very, very, very um, clear on the way authority flows, right? So when you have a leader who is kind of doing their own stuff and doesn't take input, and does all of these things their own way, or and you can clearly see something better or something, it's very hard to manage those situations without overstepping them, right? So one of the few things that I've learned through experience is you have to make them think or help them see it from their perspective. So and this will all fall into the managing thing, into the influencing and managing emotions. It can seem a little manipulative, but you almost have to make it seem like it's their idea. Like you almost have to put it in a way where it's them coming up with it, and kind of look, oh that, oh you want me to put this here, oh that's beautiful, okay, but look, it would make a lot more sense, and it would be a lot better for you, or it would be a lot better, and it would flow better if you put this information here, or if you explain it maybe a different way. How would you explain it to me, because I don't understand? Like if you frame it in a way where they feel like they're participating in it, it'll be easier. It's not gonna always gonna work, because sometimes you have people who are really hard headed, or people who don't care, and they just do it what I told you. Okay, I'll do it. But and most of the time, when you're dealing with somebody like that, they're very they're look people are looking to find easy way to do things, and the easiest way to do things is not always the best way. Sometimes it requires a step back. Sometimes the problem is not even the person, is it's the way they've been taught to set up the project, right? Because um, what I've learned is, and the way I go about things, let's say I'm organizing let's say I have a preaching that I have to deliver on Sunday. I am throughout the week. I'm being prepared. I am taking. I am obviously I'm praying, and I'm fasting, and I'm asking for guidance. But at the same time, while I do that, I'm studying. I'm reading. I'm seeing what I'm thinking about, what's on my mind, what I see some of the problems are in this. Now, if the because those things have to align, right? You can't just. Sometimes I see preachers who just say, "Well, I'm going to tell the church this and this because this is bothering me," right? And then they'll craft the sermon to correct the church, but it's something that is not coming like from a good place. So what I try to do is to learn to study as I go, and then I go step by step. What I want to say, how do I want to say it, what are the correct words. Even though I have the message, I still have to find the correct words to deliver that message in a way where people can receive it. So all of I do these things, and because I preach with a paper in my hand. It's very point by point. But with that, God moves because of the way that I've prepared, because of the way that I've laid it out. The preparation allows me now to be able to deliver the message in the most effective way. And sometimes we get confused or derailed with that lack of preparation, where sometimes we don't even know what we're trying to say, or we don't even understand what the goal is. So before we do anything, we have to make sure what the goal and what the message we want to give is, so that we can then organize everything else, and it'll fall into place. And sometimes those types of issues is that there is no real vision for the leader that the leader has, and that causes problems with managing. That causes problems um, with the different opinions, right? Because if as a leader, if my vision is clear and my vision is as a purpose, I would just come to you and ask. I need you to do these three things. I need them done by this date. Thank you, and that should be it. But if I'm doing this and moving this and doing that, then I don't have a clear picture of what's going on, and sometimes that's a lack of vision in leadership. And that's why the Bible is very clear, where it says not everybody should seek to be a teacher, or not everybody should seek to be an elder, because it comes with responsibility with it, and it comes with this type of preparation, this type of understanding. And it's hard sometimes to manage all of those things. That's why this course is a component of it, and it's the human component. It's not necessary, because all the other stuff you can learn, right? You can learn to set a schedule, you can learn to organize a calendar. All of those things are not that difficult. It's these things, like you're having these issues where, how do I deal with somebody who's doing this? How do I deal with somebody who's not doing this? How do I deal with somebody whose personality doesn't fit? That's really some of the most important things, because sometimes projects will fall apart because of this, and they won't be successful because of lack of being able to understand and navigate these relationships. And it works personally, and it works in church environment, and it works in the business world, especially if you've ever been involved in any types of, I don't know if you, but I used to have a sales job, and a sales job is the most important thing. Is when you're selling to somebody, you have to connect with them first, right? You have to they have to buy into you, into who you are, because first they got to trust you, because they don't know you, you don't know them. They have money, you want their money. So so automatically there's a mistrust naturally. But what I've learned in my sales jobs was people people are just want to be understood, and they want to be heard, and they want to basically have a trusting relationship. Because my job was, I used to work for AT&T, right, one of the biggest companies in the world. And my job was, I would call people who were disconnected the service, who had broken contracts, who were unhappy with the service. And my job was to make them happy again and bring them back, right? So I would get on the phone and call somebody, and they would be upset. They would be cursing at me. They would be telling me, "Well, my bill went up to so and this and this and that," uh, and I would have to sit there and actually figure out what the issue is. Because the issue is, once I figured out what the issue is, then I could present to them the solution. And then most of the time it would be the fact that their bill was too high. And their bill was too high because why? Because they were making phone calls to, um, let's say, to Mexico, and they charge per minute, right? So, and she's upset because her bill is high because she's making these phone calls to Mexico. But she's making these phone calls to Mexico, why? Because her mother is there, or her mother is getting sick or something. So the issue is that she wants to be able to communicate with her family member who is going through a hard time. So that's the issue. So by me understanding that, now I can say, look, we have this great plan that's going to allow you to talk to your whenever you want. This is it. It's not going to cost you that much, and now I can begin to address the other issues, right? So sales is a good way to learn these things, because it puts you in the position where you have to understand the other person. You have to understand what they want. You have to understand what the problem is. You have to offer a solution. And now, and it's the same thing with leadership, because you're selling them the project. You're selling them the vision to your team. If your team doesn't believe it in your vision, they're not gonna follow you. They're not gonna follow you. But if you're able to sell them the vision, if you're able to present it to them in a way that they care about it, because they have to make it their own. Because if they never make it their own, they're working for you. But you don't want them working for you. You want them working with you. So when you make them see the vision, understand and love the vision, and see how they are going to benefit from the vision, then they'll work alongside with you. Then the delegation and all the other stuff is easy, because they're working in a project that they're invested in. They're working in a project that they believe in. They're working in a project that they want to see, not just you. It's not just your project. It's not just your vision. It's not just your plans. That's why I said that last class. I said, without people, there's no vision. You can't bring it into existence if you don't have people. So that's the first thing. So you have a pick. Go ahead and pick another one so we can.
Okay, yeah. Number 7.
7. Okay.
Yeah. Can I go ahead with the next one?
All right. Did you write something for it?
Yes.
Okay. Let's go ahead and go.
Yeah.
Let's go into the scenario.
Yeah. Okay. Um, I am asked to celebrate an to hello, can you hear me?
Yes. Hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Do I read the question or to go ahead with the response? Hello?
Sorry. Yes. Yes, I can hear you. Sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I said Your energy and commitment to the group success are inspiring, and we are happy to have you. However, I think we can we can make this even bigger and impactful if only you agree with me to organize yourself more and have some checklists attached to your program.
This is one of the things
Should
you.
I come again?
Yeah, yeah, it's fine. I heard this scenario. This scenario, you're gonna run
Okay.
into it a lot, right? Because there's people who they're sporadic, right? They they'll go, they'll start something, and then halfway through somebody else asks them for help, and then they'll go and they'll go somewhere else, and 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 they're happy to help, happy to do the things, but there's no organization, right? So when you see somebody that's like that, who has all this energy, who has all this drive, you have to recognize that they're not going to be able to do certain tasks, right? You have to be able to understand that the way that you can implement them or use them in your project has to be very specific. They're basically a a wind up toy, and you just got to point them towards the right direction, and then they'll do the thing. So these types of people are perfect when it comes to um, promoting, when it comes to having first encounters, when it has to passing out pamphlets, when it comes to motivating other people. Like they're great at those type of things. But if you give them a specific task by a certain time, they're not going to be able to do it because they stopped on the way 20 times to have 20 different conversations with 20 different people, right? Or they so with these kind of people, this is what when it comes to leadership, you got to be able to understand weaknesses and strengths. Some people are very good at being around other people, being social, and that's wonderful and that's amazing. But that's going to keep them from being able to do other things and to carry out the tasks that you need for them. Because sometimes the task is sit down at this table and organize these documents or organize these events. I need you to do these numbers and do these things, and that person is going to be having 20 conversations, and the work is not getting done. So when you have, like I said, especially when there's somebody who is like that, you're right. You have to let them know that you're doing a good job. It's amazing. It's wonderful. You have energy. You have all this. We just need you to channel that in a way that is gonna help us carry out the project. And sometimes that requires your job to be able to recognize that person, to be able to see their character, and then put that person in the correct place in the project, because that's usually going to solve the issue. Because so there's certain people that you can't trust because of their disposition, because of their character. You can't put them in certain scenarios because they're not going to work. And sometimes these kind of people are best to put by themselves. Sometimes these kind of people are you give them a project to do on their own, because if you put them in a group, they're not only gonna not do it, but they're gonna keep others from doing their work, right? But these kind of people do are part of are are beneficial. So you're always gonna have them. You're always gonna need them because they're people that you can go out and they can if you have an event, you give them the go, and they'll go and they'll promote that event, and they'll talk to everybody about the event, and and they'll be happy about it, and everybody else will be happy, and they'll cause this desire in other people to want to go. So when it comes to promotion, like promoting events, when it comes to things like evangelism, when it comes to things like uh, providing that push, they're, these types of people are very good at it. But you have to learn to manage them, to guide them, and to push them towards the correct task. That's part of the leadership. So, and like I said, I had this. There's when I was in a previous church, there was a member who was like this, perfect. She she was always late to church. She was never able to make it on time. She was always late. But when she was there, she caused the greatest impact. Right? She brought in the most people. She would meet people at the store. She would meet people at their job, wherever she would meet people. That 5 minutes talking with her, she could have those people in the church that night. She was she was really good. She was very she excelled in that with that. So, but she was always late. She was always disorganized. She suffered from this same issue, and it was really hard to get her focused. It was really hard to get her when it came to actual projects. It was really hard because of her personality. But with her, it was just a matter of hey, you're bringing people in. People are these people are looking towards are looking for you. These people are following you here. You brought them to this church. So when you get here late, or when you don't get here on time, or when you don't show up, you're leaving these people practically alone because they're new to the church. They're new, so that's how I had to explain it to her so that she could. Oh, okay, it's not for my sake, but for their sake, right? So I would sort of go try and be more on time because I don't want these the people that you're bringing in to feel like they're not welcomed. Even though we're gonna welcome them, we're gonna bring them in. But sometimes when you get invited to a place, you want to see the face that invited you, right? You want to see that person that made the contact with you. So that's how I had to explain things to her. Is like um, your behavior is might lead to people being misplaced, out of place, not feeling welcome. And she tried, but again, it's very difficult. Sometimes she would be weeks she would be really good at it. Other weeks she might fall off. But it's a process. And like I said, some of these people, but if I had let her go anywhere, we would go out to an event. All I had to do was just let her be on her own, and she would evangelize. She would be praying for people. She would be she would be like just she was dynamic like that. But her organization skills were were very bad. But like I said, this is part of the leader being a leader, being able to understand different people and see the value in different people, right? Because some persons might not be good or efficient in certain tasks, but that doesn't mean that you cannot use them for other things or they cannot be used in other things. And sometimes we focus too much on the front, on the musicians, on the managers, on the pastors, on the preachers, and we focus too much on that. But we need people who open doors. We need people who welcome people. We need people who sit people down. We need people who have smiles on their face. We need people um, who are in the back end, right? Who see somebody, oh, maybe who sees somebody who needs to go or has or get a drink of water or anything. All of these things are needed in the church and in any type of business or anything. Because the best thing is to if you go to a business and you're welcomed in, the person sits you down, offers you water, offers you coffee. You feel welcomed. You feel open, right? you've already been influenced positively. So even if they come with you with bad news, you're taking it a different way. But if you are received and you're just kind of ignored and nobody pays attention to you, and you feel like a sense of, well, what am I doing here? Then if somebody comes with you with bad news, when you're already predisposed to having a bad reaction, right? So, um, like I said, we're in the business of people. We're in the business of people, and I want to touch on number three, scenario number three. This is one that, especially when you're around other pastors, especially when you're around other leaders, there's always going to be people who will dominate the conversation. Not in a sense of malice or anything, but naturally, people who are used to being the preacher, people who are used to being the leader, people who are used to taking the lead, will naturally always take the most space in conversation. Will naturally, well, they'll end up deciding what restaurant we're going. They'll end up deciding like how we're gonna get there. They'll end up deciding naturally because they're just used to taking the lead. They're used to taking charge, right? But and that works fine. But when you're among colleagues, when you're among equals, when pastors are among pastors, when leaders are among leaders, there has to be a way to manage that, right? So in scenario three, if we have something like, if you have a colleague who's like that, who's dominant in conversations and is not giving idea or room for other people, how you go to that person is you have to be able to tell them that there is a way that he can get more ideas. Like, because sometimes when these types of people is they don't have, they already have a plan, they already have a concept, they already have a something that they want to do, and they're just, and you're just hearing it, right? So somebody who is like that, you tell them, look, I appreciate it, your plans are well thought out, your plans are you've laid them out very importantly. um we just need to hear from some other people because this is a group project. We want to hear everybody's voices. We need to understand what we're doing, and this is going to give you time as well to assimilate some of their ideas into yours. If you put them in a way where prepare them, okay, yeah, you're good, your plans are good, everything is good, but your plans could be better if you listen to other plans. Your plans could be better if you let other people listen, and sometimes that's enough most of the time, because that person is not doing it on purpose most of the time. Most of the time it's not somebody who just, oh, I love attention, I want everything. Most of the time it's just somebody who's used to having the center stage, who's used to having to take on that role, and it's really hard to turn it off, especially when you're around other people. So when it comes to what I've noticed is a lot of people who are like that, because I'm kind of like that in a way. So, but if somebody tells me we need to hear from other people, I go, oh, okay, and then I'd be quiet. But because sometimes I don't realize that I'm just talking and talking and talking and talking and talking and talking, because that's just how I am, right? So sometimes just pointing it out or just letting the other person know, is enough to get to to manage this issue. Now, on the other hand, if you get is somebody who thinks they know all the answers, and all, though that's a little bit more difficult. That's somebody who even if they hear other ideas, they're always going to hear it and critique them, or they're always going to hear them and say, "Well, my idea is better." Those kinds of people who refuse. If you have somebody who has this trait and does not yield or does not understand, the best thing to do is to find a way to get him You can't get him out, because what's going to happen is that person is going to sabotage everything. He's going to undermine decisions. He's going to double second guess problems, and, and and other people are going to be infected. Other people are going to be. It's impossible not to hear negativity and it not affect you, right? Like I said, when you have somebody who is like that and does not take the correction, then we need to take steps to find ways to take him out of the project. And if they're the leader, and if they're the project manager, or they're the ones that is in charge of everything, well, that's very difficult. The only thing we can do in those cases is what I've learned is okay, just do what they say, because regardless of what happens, it's never going to be their fault. It's going to be somebody else's fault. Somebody didn't do this. Somebody didn't do that. So when you're dealing with certain traits, certain personalities, you have to cut them off immediately. Um, and there's ways to do it. Most of the time, and the Bible tells us a ways to how to do this, and because the Bible tells us how we should approach members who are engaged in sin and stuff like that, is to go with him with another person, let him know the issue with a witness, right? Because the reason you want a witness is because you don't want things to be misunderstood, you don't want things to be twisted, and you want to see and have somebody else to see the reaction, right? So um, that's the first step, is to go with him with somebody else who's like minded with you, talk to him about it, uh, and then wait. If the behavior doesn't, then you go with somebody who's higher, right? You always want to address the issues at the lowest possible level. That's one of the things, right? When you're dealing with these things, you don't want to go over somebody's head. You don't want to go over somebody. You want to address it at the lowest possible level to create the least damage, to create the least friction. So eventually, you're gonna have to go. If the person like this does not listen, eventually you're gonna go to whoever gave him the project and talk to him. And that by that time, you'll probably have 3 or 4 people with you talking about it. And then either that person's gonna get removed or whatever, or the project's gonna die. But those are the only things that you can do with people who have this issue. Now, all of these things are actually, you can identify these things by emotional and through emotional intelligence, right? So because most of these times people are acting by emotion, right? So we have to find ways to be able to identify these things, right? And most of the communication that we have is nonverbal, right? um, there's ways that you, so if we pay attention, and if you pay attention to people and to conversations, if you pay attention to facial expressions, if you pay attention to body language, to posture, right? The way people are sitting is very important. If you see somebody who is sitting upright and straight, that person, okay, he seems like he's engaged. He seems like he knows what he's doing. If you see somebody who's slouched over, who is playing with their fingers, that person's not interested. That is disconnected. If you see somebody who is just dead staring, that person is daydreaming. They're doing like, something's going on. So there's ways that we can look at people that we can automatically understand their emotional state, based whether they're open, they're will, or they're closed, whether they're angry, whether they're tired, whether they're upset. There's all these ways that the body will automatically, they'll position their body in a way where you will know. So that's one way we can observe and we can see emotional states, right? It's through body language, it's through facial expressions, the way people are standing. If you see somebody who is standing with one foot forward and one foot a little back, and his hand is to his side, you know that person is thinking about um, moving or violence because he's positioned himself in a way where he could either dodge or throw a punch. So when you see certain stances, there's automatically tell you, oh, there's conflict. Oh, this is going on. Another way we can tell is in the pitch of the voice, in the tone of the voice, the speed of talking. Right, all of these things can show us like how emotional somebody is. Right, if you see somebody who is speeding up their speech, who is just talking and I don't know what's going on, and somebody who becomes is that person is probably agitated. That person is probably in a desperate state. That's why it's tell people, hey, calm down, slow down, breathe. Right, calm down, slow down, breathe, because they're moving at a very quick pace. So they're in an emotional state of being anxious, of high anxiety. So it's those are the things that we can notice, right? With the tone, with the pitch of voice, um, you can really clearly say when sometimes hear when somebody is upset just by the tone of their voice, just by the way that they're talking. Like it's very uh, instinctual. We can detect it right away, and we know it. Like sometimes you get home and you hear your wife or you hear somebody and the way they react, oh, that she sounds angry. You already know just by the tone. You already know, and it could be the same thing. It could be I made you some food, right? This is normal tone, but it could also be I made some food for you. It changes just the tone. The tone changes, but it's those are ways that we can see, right, the emotional state of others. Okay, so I'm gonna read you a situation, and then I want you to see if you can identify the state of mind of that person, right? So the scenario is, let's say you have a friend who comes to you, and or you go to a friend and you just asking them how they're doing, just a simple question. Hey man, how are you? Their response is, I'm fine. I'm just trying to keep busy. People always say things will get better with time, but honestly, it doesn't feel that way right now. Anyways, I don't want to bother you with all that. How I'm doing pretty good. Is that person okay? Right? That person's they're saying I'm fine, right? They're saying
It's not okay.
hmm,
I said it's not okay.
it's not okay. Okay, and these are the things that we're gonna hear this a lot, right? We're gonna hear as leaders, people are gonna come to you, man. I'm good. It's just well, everything's okay, and it's and right away you know, okay, this person's not okay, and they're telling you they're okay, but they're really not. So when somebody goes like this, we need to learn to identify this. Like there's certain words, like when he says words like, "Oh, I'm just trying to stay busy," You know, like stuff like that is, they're obviously telling you something is going on where they want to keep, they're keeping themselves busy because they don't want to think about a problem. They're going through something difficult. Something is going on, right? When it goes things like, when they say things like, people always say things get better. Like when somebody says something like that, that means they're not in a good place, right? It means that something is going on, um, and they're being kind of funny about it, or they're being jokingly about it, but it's not somebody who is in a good state of mind. So sometimes people, and we hear about it sadly some of the times, especially when it comes to cases of suicide, right? When people start to look back, oh, and now all these conversations that you had with them begin to make sense. Yeah, they're telling you they're fine, but not really. Yeah, they're telling you they're okay, but not really. And sometimes we miss these things because we, okay, they say they're okay, but we're not looking at the underlying issue. We're not looking at the real meaning of things, right? And it's very like one of the most common things is that you hear all the time, right? Is when your significant other tells you, "I'm okay," it means she's not okay, right? Right? Because so, but if you just take it at face value, okay, she's okay. You're ignoring the tone, you're ignoring the body language, you're ignoring everything, and just taking the words for it, and that's not a good thing. That's what we take into consideration, not just the words, but the tone, the phrasing, all of these things, and then those things will illuminate and will show, um, all of the and will show the emotional state of that person, right? So people use the language like "I'm fine" or "it's gonna get better," right? To 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 show a state of sadness, of depression, right? Um, and we have to be able to recognize that, because we have it's called coded language, right? Um, especially when it comes to people, right? We need to understand that, and we spoke about it for in the first, um, in the first class, when your significant other tells you they don't feel loved, that's not really what they're telling you, right? They're telling you they feel neglected, they don't feel like they have attention. That's really what they're telling you, right? So we have to see and identify what people are really meaning to say when they are talking, because the words themselves are not enough, right? So we're gonna go one more of those scenarios, and then we're gonna see if we can, let's say a coworker. Okay, let's see. Let's say your worker has been. Say you've been working with somebody, you know, on a project, and you've missed a few deadlines, right? Because of personal business. Let's just say you've had doctor's appointments, you've had certain things that come up that are natural, that are normal, right? So your coworker has had to pick up some of the extra work, right? So you check in with them and you ask them, "Hey man, how's the project going?" Right? And they respond like, "Oh, it's fine. It's just a lot of work." They go, "Oh, it's just a lot of work. With everybody doing what they have to do, and but it's okay. Teamwork is important, and it's all gonna come. It's all gonna be done pretty good, I guess." Like, and when they're responding to you in that sense, right? What they're saying, they are alluding to the fact. that they're overworked, and that they may be a little frustrated with having to do extra work, right? But they're not gonna say it. They're gonna say, "Oh, it's fine. It's just a lot of work." And it's like, um, but teamwork, yeah. So everything's gonna be okay. It sounds optimistic. It sounds like okay, but it's not. It's somebody who is frustrated, who is overworked, and probably understands why, because they're not like attacking you for it. They're not judging you for it. They're just speaking about it in a way that is it's kind of passive aggressive. But these are the things that are going to happen. People are going to be putting projects together. Somebody may have a better schedule than another person. Sometimes you'll be put in a project with, or in a group with somebody who has a family, who's always going to be, whose schedule is very limited, who will not be able to take most of the workload. And you have to be able to understand that and see those things and see any type of resentment that is building up, right? With those types of situations, because you don't want to overwork people, you don't want to overburden people, you don't want to make people feel like they have to choose between this project and their family, or this vision or this thing, and having a day off or something. And one of the things that, like, we've practiced at our church, especially our pastor, when I first came in, one of the first things he emphasized was to put an emphasis on rest, on actually making it a point to schedule in rest, schedule in relief, because you have to you have to give people that breathing room so that they're not overworked. You have to schedule in certain things, and sometimes you have to force people to rest. That's one of the things, right? So there's certain, and the rest is important because it's going to help you avoid these types of situations. It might be that somebody is going to take that day of rest to catch up on their work, and that's fine. And then that person who needs the rest will take the rest, and it'll rebalance itself, and be able to actually uh, work in the long run. Because, like I said, we, especially in church, we're not looking for projects that are going to last 6 months or a year. No, we want projects that's going to last 10, 15, 20 years. We want to set up communities. We want to set up future generations. We want to set up um, different ways of change, of implementing change in the communities, and in the world around us. And these are not things that are going to be done in 6 months, in 1 year. No, these are projects that are, and visions and goals that are going to take decades to even. Sometimes we were not even going to see it come to be, but we're going to lay the groundwork for those other people that come after us to be able for them to carry out these things. So all of these things fall into the emotional, being able to manage the emotional state and the emotional intelligence of others. Like I said, we have to be able to recognize the emotion. We have to be able to understand what that emotion is going to do to them or drive them towards. And then you manage it, right? You manage it, because if you don't understand what's going on, your management is not going to work, because you're not going to be able to give the correct advice. You're not going to be able to put them in the correct place. You're not even going to choose the correct words. That was the purpose for this exercise, right? To be able to, well, what words would you use for this person? How would you frame it in a way for them to understand, right? So all of these things are very important, especially when you're the head of a project, when you are um, leading other people, because you're never going to get rid of this. People are emotional, no matter who they are, male, female. We all have emotions that affect us, whether we're aware of it or not. Some more than others, but there's always an emotional aspect of things. And like I was telling you last time, this is one of the things that is not really talked about much because we're sometimes we expect people to just be workers, to just show up, to just do this, just be a robot, just do what you're told. And it would be nice if everybody could just show up and do things and be effective and be good at the test without having to address these issues. But it's part of the human experience to have these emotions that dictate a lot of our behaviors. That's why it's important to understand how we're affected by them, how to manage them, how to do all these things. Right now, see the okay. To you, I'm going to just have you um, just write a short paper on. It's not really just a short paper reviewing what you have learned and of a way to um, how would you implement some of the principles that you have learned. It doesn't have to be long. Uh, it can be at least a page, but it doesn't have to be 20 pages or anything like that. Just something short and concise. I just want to make sure that the things are being absorbed. So all these things, I'm not that. It's to me, it's not important about grades and all the other stuff. I mean, they're important, obviously, but I would much rather you retain the knowledge. I much rather you understand the principles. I much rather you see how to apply them in real life. To me, that's the most important part of this because it's dealing with real people and understanding real people. So it's to me that's the most important part. The grades and all that stuff we can handle. But that to me that's that's just administrative stuff. So for you, just go ahead and just write a paper, at least a page long on what you have learned so far. How do you see yourself implementing it in situations? You can come up with whatever you want. I just want to see your thought process. I want to see how you would walk to a certain situation, right? And we'll just go over that next class. And for how do you say your name, Adu? Adu Pasama? Is that how you say your name? I think he's muted.
Yes, it's muted.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So for you, yes, I just want to make sure okay. So for you, uh, sorry.
Turn off your speaker. He should turn off his speaker.
It's, as long as you're listening to me, it's fine. I mean, um, I'm going to send you my notes from the first lecture, and I'm going to send you um, some of the assignments that we did, and I want you to do them as best you can. I understand you're not gonna be familiar 100%, but just do them the best you can, and it's gonna serve as a review. And in the next class, we're gonna go. I'm gonna. It's gonna be a quick review of everything. Quick review of everything. That way to help you catch up and to help those that have heard it uh, rehear it and relearn it. It's gonna be a quick review of your of all the material. I mean, it's because like that. Yes, because I want you both everybody who's here to be able to understand the conversation. Because I understand right now we're talking about the scenarios, but there was a whole background before this that I want you to be able to understand. I'm gonna send you the documents. I think it's a review, so like a little test review. If you have to look up the questions online. It's fine. It's not an issue. You weren't there. Just try to answer them. I'm gonna send you a questionnaire. That questionnaire is gonna um, basically test yourself on what we're on the emotional intelligence scale, and I'm gonna send you a link to an audio book um, that I want you to listen to. It's 3 hours of the audio book. It's online for free on YouTube. You can hear it, and I just want you to listen to it throughout the week and just kind of it's gonna touch on some of the stuff we've been touching. It's gonna touch on other stuff. It's just a book. It's a popular book on this subject, right? Um, it's not the most scientific book, but it's not the most complicated book either. It's right in the middle. So it's really easy to understand. You can hear it in the background. You can put it in the background, listen to it while you're. It's 3 hours. You have the whole week to go over through if you want, and just so you can get an overview of things. So I'm gonna send you the review based on the notes of the first lesson. I'm gonna send you the questionnaire, and I'm gonna send you the audio book, right? And then next class, I said we're gonna go over a little bit, and I may have, and we just want to talk about it, talk about the things because I really want to have this. I really want you to understand and to grasp it, right? Uh, so I'm gonna send you all that stuff. I'm gonna send it in the group, in the WhatsApp group. That's how I've been doing most of the communicating through. Everything I need you guys to do, I'm linking there, and I'm right. So, and that's it. So if you guys have any questions for me before we head out, feel free to ask them.
No question.
No questions. Okay. So just be mindful. I'm gonna be sending you those things. If I'm gonna send them to them the fastest I can. If not today, it'll be tomorrow. But I'm gonna send. I have everything. It's just a matter of taking the time because right now I'm about to go to work, just like So um, this is how I start my mornings off. you know. So thank you guys for showing up. Thank you guys for being here. I hope that we can keep growing and keep learning because to me the most important part is to lift up and to build up one another as leaders to be able to work in especially in the body of Christ to be able to do it in a way that's going to bring the best out of people because they're we're leaders and we're going to be ahead of most projects, but at the end of the day they're God's people and we're responsible for them. At the end of the day we have to do it with wisdom, with understanding, with compassion because they're not our people, they're God's people. Okay. So just a quick prayer before we leave, and then we go ahead and dismiss you guys. So thank you, my God, Lord. Thank you, Lord, for these moments, my God. Thank you for allowing me, my God, this privilege, my God, to be able to teach, Lord. Thank you for the students, my God. I ask that you give them a hunger and a need and a desire, my God, to always keep learning, to always keep growing, my God, that they're able to embrace, my God, your wisdom, that they're able to grab a hold, my God, to your knowledge, my God, and to your truth, Lord. I thank you and I glorify you, my God, Lord. As I ask, Lord, that as we go through the week, my God, that these things we're able to implement, that we're able to grow in, my God, and give us your wisdom, give us your understanding, so that we're able to see things through your eyes, my God. We thank you and we glorify you, my God. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank
Amen
you
and
very
amen.
much, sir.
No problem. So thank you guys. I'll see y'all guys next week, and y'all have a blessed night, I guess.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Right, sir.